Have you ever been to New Orleans?
No, I have not.
Oh, you'd love it. It's so fun. I went on a graveyard tour. I saw Marie Laveau's tomb, and I saw Nicolas Cage's tomb.
What?
He has a tomb there he's alive. Don't worry. Nicolas Cage is alive.
I was like, what?
Welcome to Scary Mystery Surprise,
where we talk about scary things that surprised us around the internet.
I'm Edwin.
I'm Michelle. I'm setting the tone. We're in New Orleans, and it's the turn of the century. And I think I don't know why I've been in such a true crimey mood lately. Maybe I don't know what's going on. I just need my historical true crime. So this is a historical true crime story.
Ooh, cool.
But it's Friday, March 14th, 1919.
I don't know when that is, but I literally trying to imagine what people look like.
No, I know. I was like, do I elaborate or wait? Let the wheels turn. Let them crank in there. So World War I is going on during this time. Let me just set some scenes. So
World War I?
Yeah. World War I was from 1914 to, I wrote it down, 1914 to 1919. Yeah, that's World War I.
You're the history person.
Yeah, well, that's World War I, not World War II.
Oh, okay.
2 world wars, remember?
Yeah. Because I think I heard you say, I thought automatically 40s, and I'm like, wait, we were just in 1920 something, 1919 or 19 whatever.
End of the Gilded Age. It's New Orleans. It's swinging. Everybody's having a good time.
Okay.
I'll
take your word for it.
Yeah. So on March 14th, 1919, the editor of the New Orleans Times newspaper received a letter. And now I'm going to read that letter, and it'll introduce what we're about to talk about.
Ooh, okay.
Hell, March 13th, 1919. Esteemed mortal. They have never caught me, and they never will. They have never seen me, for I am invisible, even as the ether that surrounds your earth. I am not a human being, but a spirit and a demon from the hottest hell. I am what you Orleanians and your foolish police call the Axeman. When I see fit, I shall come and claim of the victims. I alone know whom they shall be. I shall leave no clue except my bloody axe besmeared with blood and brains of he whom I have sent below to keep me company. If you wish, you may tell the police to be careful not to rile me. Of course, I am a reasonable spirit. I take no offense at the way they have conducted their investigations in the past. In fact, they have been so utterly stupid as to not only amuse me, but His Satanic Majesty Francis Joseph, etc. But tell them to beware. Let them not try to discover what I am, for it were better they were never born than to incur the wrath of the Axeman. I don't think there is any need of such a warning, for I feel the police will always dodge me as they have in the past. They are wise and know how to keep away from all harm. Undoubtedly, you Orleanians think of me as the most horrible murderer, which I am. But I could be much worse if I wanted to. If I wished, I could pay a visit to your city every night. At will, I could slay thousands of your best citizens. For I am in a close relationship with the angel of death. Now, to be exact, at 12:15 earthly time on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. In my infinite mercy, I am going to make a little proposition to you people. Here it is. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is in full swing at the time I have mentioned. If everyone has a jazz band going, well, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, One thing is certain, and that is that some of you and your people who do not jazz it out on a specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe. Well, as I am cold and craving the warmth of my native Tartarus, and it is about time I leave your earthly home, I will cease my discourse, hoping that thou wilt publish this, that it may go well with thee. I have been and will be the worst spirit that has ever existed, either in fact or in the realm of fantasy. The Axeman.
The Axeman of New Orleans.
I never read that letter fully, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Just gotta jazz it out, you guys.
You gotta jazz it out. Jazz it out. But a psycho killer who loves jazz. One of the most mysterious and still unsolved frenzies to grip the city of New Orleans came in the early 1900s with the arrival of the Axeman. Who was this strange and terrifying creature? I don't know. Ghost? Ghoul? Something worse? Someone who loves jazz? Many believe that he was not a man at all, but creature that could disappear and reappear at will.
Was the letter written, like handwritten?
I don't know.
Or typewriter?
It might have been a typewriter at that time. I don't know.
Or like cool magazine clippings. the whole thing. Imagine you have to use up like 50 magazines.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been so much money. Now we have to get in the time machine. Of course, because we got to go investigate this.
Let's go.
We're going back in time. We're going back. Are you ready?
And the time machine / washing machine duo.
Yeah,
combined.
It's a combo. It's a combo unit. Oh, okay, we're here. May 1918. That foghorn leghorn voice really wears out my vocal cords. Anyway, May 1918. Here we are. Here we are in New Orleans. And the greatest boogeyman that New Orleans has ever known has just arrived in the city.
Yeah.
The Axeman's here. And no one was safe, it seemed.
Jeez, this is a name, too. The Axeman.
It's pretty legendary. But, I mean, I have some theories at the end of this that I'm like, I don't know. We'll see. His official reign of terror started in 1918 with an Italian grocer named Joseph Maggio and his wife were murdered while they were sleeping in their apartment above Maggio's grocery store.
Why'd you do that?
I don't know. And now my accents are out of control. I don't know what's going on. Their throats had been cut with a razor, and their wounds had been covered up with axe strikes. So that was a little unusual. Upon the investigation, the police discovered that the panel in the rear door had been chiseled out, providing a way for the killer to get in and out. The axe was found in their apartment, still coated with Maggio's blood. Nothing in the house had been stolen, while several subjects were arrested and questioned, including a brother-in-law that was asleep next door to them and was a barber, and who had been passed out drunk while they were murdered. and then he went and got all of his brothers before he checked on them to see that they were dead. Suspicious. I'm just saying.
So wait, he went to check?
So he heard somebody, he knocked on the door, heard somebody groan, and this is after he woke up after being passed out. So he woke up, heard somebody groan, went and got his brothers all around town, came back, then opened the door and found them all cut up on their bed. And Joseph was actually still alive. So, like, he was alive during that whole time that what's-his-name went and got. So it was just it's very weird. And then Joseph died on, like, his way to the hospital. It's just very sus. But they also found this other clue. I mean, the thing is, they thought it was going to be him, but they couldn't prove it, so they released him. And they also found this other clue that was pretty weird. And it was written in chalk near the victim's home. And it read, Miss Joseph Maggio will sit up tonight. Just write Mrs. Tony.
What?
Written in chalk somewhere outside their house.
Is that supposed to be like a cryptic?
A code? Hey, who's Miss Tony? No one knows. Who's Mrs. Tony? like, I don't know. It's just investigators began digging in old files looking for possible cases that matched the Maggio murders. And they actually discovered 3 murders that had taken place in 1911, murders that bore a striking resemblance to the Maggio crime, including an axe that had been used at each home that had been taken from the home, and then someone had used a chisel to get through a panel of the door, of the rear door. So that was like a similarity as well. And so, but the earlier crimes that in 1911, they actually thought were mafia crimes. So the police and the Italian residents of the French Quarter braced themselves for the worst. So they just thought they were like mafia crimes, and so everybody was scared.
Wow. But for no reason. People were just, did they find anything about the victims being involved with something?
Is it just weird racism where they just thought all Italians were in the mafia? That might also be it. I don't know. There's like lots of... The overarching thing is that this guy does target Italian grocers for some reason. That was his overall arching victim type.
Wow.
Which is very
specific. It's just
it's very specific.
He has a type.
It's a very specific type, considering it's like... And he did kill some random women, but like it was generally Italian grocers. So...
Wow.
It's pretty weird.
Just charged too much for eggs. It's just like... Revenge.
He just walks in and he's like... My spaghetti's too expensive. My spaghetti's too expensive. Almost exactly a month after the Maggio murder, a second crime, Louis Bossomer, a grocer who lived behind his store with a common-law wife named Annie Harriet, was discovered by neighbors one morning lying in a pool of blood. He had been badly injured but wasn't dead. Beside him was Annie, also injured but amazingly not dead. Both of them had been hacked with an axe, which is so gruesome. I can't even... The weapon was also lying next to Bossomer, and it was also covered in blood. A panel of the kitchen door had been removed with a chisel, lying on the back steps. Nothing had been stolen. As Annie regained consciousness at the hospital, she said her attacker had been young and very dark, but later she changed her story and stated that Bossomer had attacked her. And the police were skeptical because, like, how do you hit yourself in the head with an axe? Like, you hit her, like, she was hit in the head with an axe, but then how do you fracture your own skull with an axe?
What?
Yeah. So it didn't make any sense. No one could... The police were like, this doesn't make any sense. They
was
were
she
skeptical.
On drugs that time, I'm assuming?
Well, to be fair, that's a head injury. So, I mean, like, that's massive head injury 101. So, but it happens a few times, which is very strange.
What about the other guy? Did he say anything? Or did he die?
Well, it said after he recovered from his injuries, he was released. Bossomer couldn't remember his attack. Then later, a woman named... Which I love that... A woman named Miss Edward Schneider. So...
Okay.
Whatever her fucking actual name is lost to time. Or lost to me not Googling hard enough.
It's weird because, like, is that her last name? No, right? Like, that's... You know when they say...
It's her husband's name, but they're just saying Mrs. Edward Schneider. So
I still find that so weird when they say, like, and now Mr. and Mrs. and then they say the guy's name.
Right.
I never understood that.
I don't know. I'm just... I don't get it either. It's a thing about property ownership. Like women being property. Oh,
that's terrible.
It's legit that.
They haven't seen Barbie. Oh, God.
In August, a woman named Miss Edward Schneider awakened in the middle of the night to a phantom form standing over her bed. She screamed just as the axe fell. A few minutes later, her neighbors found her unconscious, with her head gashed and bloody and several of her teeth knocked out. But she was able to recover from her injuries. But she didn't really remember her attack.
So this guy doesn't actually kill, like, he just injures? Or does his axe just suck? Like, it's just
I don't know.
Sharpened?
Is the axe just dull? I don't know. He's just hitting people in the head with an axe and somehow people are living?
And it's an axe, not like a little hatchet or like a little...
No. You know, I thought about this because of the Velasca murder house as well. Uh-huh. Like, why are there so many axe murders right around this time? And I think it's because, A, the railroad came into popularity with travel, but B, so like people could go from place to place easier.
Oh,
yeah. No, go with me on this. And then everybody had an axe because of the way heating was. Yeah, so like you had to do a fire. So everyone had an axe. So like if you're going from town to town on a railroad and you want to kill somebody or attack somebody or rob somebody.
Yeah, and you wouldn't look suspicious walking around with an axe either, right? Like, it's just like, I'm just going to go get some wood.
Yeah, everybody had one. So a few nights later, an Italian grocer named Joseph Romano, not related to Ray Romano, who was also attacked. You're not even going to respond to my joke about Ray Romano?
Maybe. my mind went to something else. I was going to say, what if maybe they are related? That's where my mind went.
I guess they could be related. You're right. I misspoke. You're right. You're totally right. We don't know. This could be Ray Romano's great uncle. Great uncle.
I mean, I learned a while back that, what was it? Is it Hillary Clinton that's kind of like it's 19th something related to Donald Trump or something like that? Like,
oh, that's funny. Yeah, they're all related. They're always all related. Anyway, a few nights later, an Italian grocer named Joseph Romano was attacked. We don't know if he was related to Ray Romano. We've been over this several times already. We don't know what level is going to get cut out. Anyway, this attack was just like the others, though. Romano did not survive. He died a few hours later and was never able to provide any clue of the identity of the Axeman. By this time, hysteria was sweeping through the city.
I bet. I mean, like, that's a serious thing. Like, imagine in my neighborhood, we were like, with our neighbors, we're like, whose dog is crapping on the front yards? Because, in that little section in front of the sidewalk, that was causing a commotion. Just because we were wondering, whose dog is it that, they're not cleaning up, and why is he pooping so much?
Yeah, is your dog okay, sir? Sir, your dog's not okay.
So imagine in a neighborhood, people are just dying. Like, that's... Yeah,
it's obviously terrifying. Especially all, like, I don't know, kind of in a short time.
Someone's there. Who's a killer?
Yeah, who's a killer? Everybody's getting spooked. Family members were taking turns sleeping shifts to guard their family.
Wait, really?
Yeah, people were scared. There were a bunch of so-called sightings attributed to local residents, but the Axeman left tangible evidence behind a few times as well. So, on August 11th, a man named Al Durand discovered an axe and a chisel lying outside his rear door in the early morning hours. His back door had been damaged, but apparently proved too thick for the killer to cut through. Yeah, and then in late August, the rear door of Paul LaBelle's grocery and residence was chiseled through. No one was home at the time, and the same day, another grocer named Joseph LaBeouf,
not related to...
yeah, not related to Shia, that we know of, which it actually means the beef.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. The beef.
Shia the beef. Anyway, reported that an attempt had been made to chisel through his rear door at night. Awakened by the noise, he had frightened the intruder away, and an axe was discovered dropped on the steps. And then on September 15th, a grocer named Paul Durrell found that someone had also attempted to cut through his rear door, but a case of tomatoes that had been resting against the inside panel.
So Italian. Like
a case of tomatoes. It's beautiful in a way that someone who's so anti-Italian would be foiled in a way that's so Italian that, like, I mean, it's really beautiful. In the early morning hours of March 10th, 1919, the Axeman struck again, and perhaps this is his most terrible crime, because he attacked Miss Charles Cortimiglia, wife of the grocer in Renton, which is just across the river from New Orleans. She awakened to find her husband struggling with a large man in dark clothing who was armed with an axe. As her husband fell in a bloody heap on the floor, Miss Cortimiglia held her 2-year-old daughter in her arms and begged the attacker for mercy, at least for the child. But the axe came down anyway, killing the little girl and fracturing the skull of the mother. Yeah, it was all fun and tomatoes. Until a child is murdered. The police were once again stumped, and the rumblings began to suggest the Axeman wasn't really a man at all. Someone claimed it might be a woman, or like a little person, enabling them to slip through the small space cut in the door.
A leprechaun?
Yeah,
a
maybe.
Goblin?
Yeah, like something. a Keebler elf, but others maintained that he was a creature that was from the world beyond. Also, what was interesting about that story is that Mrs. Cortamiglia actually accused the neighbors that came in and found them and helped. Her and her husband survived, but she accused the neighbors that came in and found them because they had a rival grocery, and so she blamed them. And so another weird false thing happened.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And then when the husband finally got his memory back, he was like, no, it wasn't them. And so, yeah, and then she admitted to lying about it. So everybody was stuck.
Just you're putting everyone against each other, just paranoid.
Yeah, it just is. It's really weird. I don't know. There's a lot of weird things like that in this where it's okay, all right, well, moving on. That's weird.
Yeah, one really weird thing is that the guy's leaving the axes. Why aren't you?
Yeah. But they also don't have fingerprint technology at this time, so it's not like you can do anything. So it's if you grab an axe at someone's property, it's better to just leave it, I think, than walk out with a bloody axe, right?
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought he would take his own axe. Okay. It's not BYOA.
Yeah, no. Also, if you're killing someone with an axe, you're pretty covered with blood. So, he's still leaving, as a weirdo covered in blood, and nobody's seeing him. So that's also what's weirding people out, too. It's just, there's no... Yeah, it'd be terrifying.
There's no bloody person walking around?
Yeah, it's terrifying. So after those murders, New Orleans, obviously, gripped with terror again. And all the police began to believe all the crimes were committed by the same man, a bloodthirsty maniac filled with passion for human slaughter. And perhaps they were right. That was a quote for some reason. And perhaps they were right. So that's the atmosphere that letter that I read at the beginning was sent in. So they got that letter telling them to all jazz it.
Jazz it up.
Jazz it up. And so the people of New Orleans did their best to follow what the Axeman's instructions were to the letter. So restaurants and clubs all over town were jam-packed with revelers, friends, and neighbors gathered in their homes to jazz it up.
So he made a party. All this, it was his way to invite people. It was just hey, here's your invitation.
Yeah, and midnight found the city alive with activity. Banjos, guitars, mandolins strummed all night. And even this composer named Joseph Davila, a well-known local composer, created a theme song for the night he entitled The Mysterious Axeman's Jazz. And in typical New Orleans fashion, it became a huge hit. I went and listened to it. It's very ragtime sounding. It's
Ooh, I like ragtime.
Yeah, ragtime. It's very that. So anyway, the sun rose the next morning, and they learned that there hadn't been a single attack that night. So this guy really did like jazz. And everyone was like, oh, great. We're safe.
Jazz saved the night.
I don't think New Orleans ever needs an excuse to throw a party, but this was a pretty good one. After that night, all was quiet for a time until August 3rd, 1919. And then in the darkest hours of the night, a young girl named Sarah Larman was attacked with an axe while she slept in her locked and shuttered home. She received a brain concussion, but she recovered. Although the woman did not die, the attack pushed the hysteria in the city to new heights. Miss Larman was not the owner of a grocery store, she was not Italian, and her attacker had not entered through a door panel, but a window. Which you'd think would indicate that it's someone else, but everybody says it's the Axeman. But on August 10th, a man named Steve Boca stumbled from his home on Elysian Fields Avenue with an axe wound to the skull. Dripping blood, he managed to make it to a friend's home, about a half a block away. The friend treated his wounds as best he could, and then called for help. The police who searched Boca's house found the classic signs of the Axeman, including the chiseled door panel and the bloody axe laying on the floor. And then on September 2nd, a local druggist named William Carson fired several shots at an intruder who had broken into his home. The intruder left a broken door and an axe behind, but managed to escape without injury. And then, in October, the Axeman appeared for his final murder. A grocer named Mike Pepitone was butchered in his bed at night. His wife and 6 children asleep in the next room. They were not touched.
Sorry, I just realized 7 people sleeping in one room. and he's sleeping in another?
Yeah, the dad's like off in another room. Is like, this is my room. You guys can't come in.
I pay for this house.
Yeah, you guys all sleep in this. Probably all sleeping on the floor. I imagine the wife and the kids all sleeping on the floor too.
I imagine them like lined up in the bed, like the mom and then the next oldest, and then until the youngest all in the line.
Oh yeah, all in a bed though, like, and they're all going. And when they do the little socks roll in and out. Yeah, and that's what I imagine. But anyway, the dad had his own bedroom for some reason. We don't know why, but they were fine, and the clue was the usual clues left behind, but the authorities were no closer to learning the identity of the Axeman than they had been in the beginning. But that was it. That was the last murder attributed to the Axeman, and he was never heard from again in New Orleans. And no one would ever know the true identity of the Axeman. Or would they? I do have some speculations.
Ooh. What are they?
Well. I have some official speculations, which I think have been debunked, but more than a year after the Axeman's final appearance, a former New Orleans man named Joseph Mumfree was shot to death in the Pacific, like in California somewhere on the Pacific coast. They just keep saying on the Pacific coast. But he was killed in California somewhere. And he had been killed by a woman named Esther Albano, who was later discovered to be the widow of the Axeman's last victim, Mike Pepitone. So that's kind of a random coincidence that she shot this random guy. But it seems like, honestly, I looked it up because the story is like the spin is that, she figured out that this Joseph Mumfree had been in New Orleans and that he was the killer. Yeah, like, I don't know. Hold on. The police began working and trying to untangle the mystery that linked Mumfree's murder to the Axeman case. Some curious coincidences were revealed in the investigation. Mumfree once had been the leader of a band of blackmailers in New Orleans who had preyed on Italians, which is very specific.
Check.
He had also been, for a separate matter, sent to prison just after the first axe murders in 1911, and in the summer of 1918, he was paroled. So, questionable. And then, at the same time, the Axeman reappeared. And then immediately after Pepitone's murder, Mumfree had left New Orleans for the coast, and strangely, the Axeman had vanished as well at the same time.
Is this debunked, by the way, or is this like...
It's been debunked, because in spite of all of this, there's actually no evidence linking to him in any way. Also, it turns out that Esther Albano was avenging her second husband who had just gone missing. So she shot Joseph Mumfree in connection with that.
Oh, okay.
They don't actually know if that was the Esther Pepitone, like if that was actually his wife at the time, like the wife from the story. So it's unclear. Like all of that is a little like hazy.
Well, I mean, saying that he didn't do it because there's no evidence, I don't know.
Yeah, there's not going to be any hard evidence of this anymore because, I don't know, he was killed. Yeah, because
what would be evidence? What would be evidence right there?
I don't know. That's all. I mean, that's being a member of a band of blackmailers that prey on Italians. That's a pretty big indicator, I think. Like, that feels like, if not him, someone in that group.
And the timeline matches, Michelle, like the actual timeline. Like, he left during this time. He was released during this time.
Yeah, allegedly. I mean, all that's like allegedly. But I guess like somebody was writing a book on this and did a bunch of research, and there wasn't like any actual concrete like he was like checking newspapers and stuff, and there wasn't any actual concrete facts to the story. I mean, it's a good story.
It was all a lie.
Yeah. So was Joseph Mumfree the Axeman? Who knows? Maybe. Were there actually several killers working to terrorize the Italian community, which kind of feels like maybe that might have actually been it, like a KKK type situation.
Yeah, but I mean, like, did they all like agree to just hack at the victims and not actually kill them?
Yeah, that's interesting too. And then I also was like,
sounds like a weak person. Just saying.
Yeah, you're right. It does kind of sound like a weak person.
Yeah,
and they did speculate it was like a woman or a...
Are you saying women are weak?
No, God, no. But like, But it would have had to have been a small person that could have fit through...
A child?
the
axe child of New
the
Orleans.
axe child of New Orleans. Also terrorizing the Italian community because I was like, oh, World War I was happening at this time. Like, was there a lot of like anti-Italian hate, like beyond just normal American hate? And it turns out the Italians in World War I were actually on the Allies' side. So that wasn't even a thing. So it was just normal hating people that are different, I guess.
Just hating immigrants. Terrible.
This is some theory that I came up with because I was like reading that letter, and that letter is so articulate and is coming from someone who's so educated. That is not a common criminal. This is not a time where everybody knew how to read and write. This is someone who's very educated wrote that letter. Someone who maybe did a PR stunt for a song that they recently wrote, Mr. Axeman Ragtime song. I don't know. That's pure me. That's my pure speculation, is that the letter's a pure hoax, right? Like,
just to party.
Just to promote your party, promote your mysterious Axeman jazz.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. It just feels like a modern PR stunt. Like, that's what it feels like. Somebody's like, I don't know if someone would have been that devious at that time, but maybe. I mean, it just feels a little like, who would have benefited more than someone who just wrote a song about these crimes?
I wonder how he announced it. In honor of the Axeman, I'm going to be releasing
I don't know
official anthem.
The official anthem. That's just like ragtime music. I don't know. Part of me was like, yeah, you put a bunch of crimes together that seemed like it was all one person. Because I don't know if I'm in the camp where I think it's all one person. And then you put the letter there and give it this really creepy mystique.
I think it's risky, like, for the same person to be doing the same thing when everybody's looking out for you, especially if, like...
But also, no one would have been looking out for a woman. Like, that's the thing, too. No one would have been looking for that.
Yeah, I guess no one would be looking out for a demon either, though. Like...
That's true.
It's just like...
Yeah. No one was actively looking for a demon at that time.
Yeah, so just, snuck past everybody.
And we'll never know who the Axeman was. And that's kind of the magic. Another magical tale of New Orleans.
Wow. I still want to go. Like...
Oh, I think you'd love it.
Just to jazz it up.
Yeah, you gotta go jazz it up in New Orleans. I mean, I'd go again in a heartbeat.
Hide your axes, too, because...
Yeah, please hide your axes. Lock your axes up.
True. Or maybe you just sharpen it in the morning and at night it's all worn out because you chop so much.
Wow.
I don't know how axes work. I don't do that. I just use gas and electricity.
We use a time machine washing machine combo, so we don't know how axes actually work. Anyway, be sure to rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Please, yeah.
And send us little messages on Spotify because we love to hear from you. And the DM, I'm still on there, even though it looks like it's abandoned. It's still functional. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned. It'll be back and going soon. But yeah, we love it. Anyway, What are we going to talk about next week, Edwin?
I don't know. I think it'll be a surprise.
Ooh, fun.
Ooh.
Oh. Are you okay?
All right, see you guys.
See you guys. Bye.